everybody. Welcome to our final Tech Talk for 2024. Today's session is focused on AI prompt engineering, and we have a lot of really incredible content to get through today. So before we dive into some introductions, I thought I would jump into some housekeeping for today. Today's presentation will be recorded and available on our website soon, but you can access today's slide deck using the QR code on the screen or the link, which I'll drop in the chat in this Zoom webinar, and I'll also distribute to all attendees via email in case there's anyone on your team that couldn't make the session today, but is interested in today's topic and learning more. We do have dedicated time for a Q&A at the end of today's session, around 15 minutes. So please drop any questions that you have in the Q&A feature, and we'll get to that at around 12:30 today. My name is Sarah Sanford. I am the Director of Operations for NCW Tech Alliance. We are a nonprofit organization with a mission to bring people and technology resources together to enable a thriving community. We provide programs and services in technology, entrepreneurship, and STEM education for communities across Chelan, Douglas, Grant, and Okanagan. We have lots of incredible events, programs, and resources, so please do check out our website. I'll drop the link in today's follow-up email as well. Today's Tech Talk for Nonprofits is brought to you by NCW Tech Alliance and NPI, the Nonprofit Practices Institute. And we are so excited to share that we will be continuing these sessions into 2025, but we would love your input and feedback on tech topics for next year. So again, you can use this QR code or the link, which I'll also drop in the chat and follow-up email from today's session. We'd love to hear from you and any topics that you're interested in for next year. I would love to hand over to Claire Odie now from MPI to do a brief introduction before we get started into today's presentation.
Thanks, Sarah. Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Claire Odie, and I'm the Director of Community Leadership at the Community Foundation of North Central Washington. And I also manage the Nonprofit Practices Institute, which is a longtime partnership between the iSchool Fund and the Community Foundation to bring affordable and accessible trainings, workshops, and different networking opportunities to North Central Washington leaders. We are so excited to be partnering with the Tech Alliance on this series and to continue this great work into 2025. This winter is a little bit quieter in terms of our programming, but I wanted to make sure folks know to check our learning calendar, which you can find on our website. And we are always curating what the latest workshops are from our local and state partners. And so just this month, there's offerings on QuickBooks, nonprofit advocacy, creating sustainable culture of well-being within our nonprofit organizations. So some great offerings, virtual offerings coming up. And just to keep checking our website, we'll have some new programming coming out this spring. So thank you so much. And I will put my contact info in the chat as well. And then I would love to pass it over to Sue Kane, Executive Director of the NCW Tech Alliance, and our wonderful guest speaker today.
Hi, everybody. I'm super excited and grateful to have an opportunity to connect with you. I see several names that I recognize, and I hope today is going to be a super useful afternoon for you. We get to talk a little bit about using some AI tools today, and it's something that NCW Tech Alliance, we are working on making sure that everybody has access to the technology that improves the way that they live and work and play across North Central Washington and beyond. And so as we all start to work with AI tools and resources, we want to make sure that you have access wherever you are in the region to the training and the resources that you need to be able to benefit from that technology. So today is just the start, and we have an action-packed training for you or resources for you. Our goals for today are pretty simple. We're going to introduce how you can use AI tools for productivity, specifically for nonprofits. And so what we've done is actually focused in on prompt engineering. And I'll talk a little bit here in the coming slides about what a prompt is. But the idea is that you can get more productive use of AI tools if you know how to prompt the tool to get what you're after. And you have to give it a little bit more context and a little bit more detail. To highlight this, we're actually going to give you a big 8 countdown. We've pulled out 8 ways that a nonprofit leader could use AI tools that are free to use today to be able to improve what you do. And we'll wrap up with just a few best practices and tips to make today run smoothly. And because we wanted to get as much as possible, I'll share with you that I've pre-recorded a couple of the AI tools just to make sure that we didn't have connection issues. So you'll also be hearing recorded version. I'll tell you that this is my authentic self. You can now use AI tools to make video recordings in your own voice. But we recorded all of these authentically. We did speed them up just a little bit to be able to make sure that we get all of these videos in for your use, and they'll be available after the webinar today as well. So first off, we're going to be using Copilot today, but I frequently get the question about which AI tools are most productive or most useful, and we play in a sandbox with lots of AI tools. Copilot is free and it's available through the Edge web browser to be able to download and use. And so you have access today to all of the applications we're going to show you. There is also a paid subscription version, a Copilot Pro, and the Copilot Pro is available through nonprofits. They offer a discount. You can get a very small subscription-based Copilot that integrates across all of the Microsoft 365. So if you use the Microsoft 365, it integrates into PowerPoint and Excel and all of those 365 applications. You can also use it to mine data in your email or in a SharePoint. So there's lots of additional utility, but the applications that we're going to talk about today are all something that you can do with the free web browser version of Copilot. Some of the other tools that I really do encourage you to experiment with and play around with if you haven't yet. Of course, ChatGPT, Perplexity does some really great research types of queries. There's Claude, BERT. Llama is the Facebook integrated or the Meta integrated AI tools. So you're seeing more and more of these tools, and we are at the ground floor of this technology. I would say we're at the bag phone version of AI tools. They're going to get more extensive and more impressive as we go forward. So now I want to focus first on the skill. And if you come away with one thing from today, the next 10 seconds are everything. Prompt engineering. An AI prompt is very, very different than the prompts that we've been using for, say, a Google search or a web browser search. Web browser searches use keywords and phrases, and they remove a lot of the context from that prompt. So it's looking and tokenizing just a couple of words in your prompt. Whereas an AI, this is a large language model that's using predictive analytics and a large database to be able to really understand tone and context and make inferences and predictions that are really language-based. So your prompts that you give it need to include a little bit more information. If you speak to it, like we sometimes speak to Google, if you were to read my Google searches, I might sound like a cave person with just a few tokenized keywords that infer most of what I'm looking for because I'm just searching for something. Whereas an AI tool, you want to be able to talk to it like you're talking to a college intern. I frequently do picture, a young person who's new in my industry. I might have to explain some things to them, but I can get really incredible outcomes if I take that approach. So you want to think about it being a little bit different than that search. Give it complete sentences and complete thoughts. It will take you a minute more to build your prompt, but you'll get all of that time back and then some in the output, depending on how you put the input together. Use manners. This is still a learning machine, so you want to be as polite, and you'll hear me be please and thank you, and hello Copilot, dear Copilot, whatever will help you remember. We have a colleague who taught us Dear Copilot, which helps you put that frame on that says use manners when you're talking with this, because you are training, just like you would train an intern, how to speak for you, and how to phrase things. And so you want that to authentically be polite and reflect your voice. Add content. We'll talk a little bit about, be very careful about what you share in the public free version of Copilot. So no trade secrets in there, no confidential information about employees in there. Be general in that sort of thing. But if your strategic mission vision is all up on your website, it's already out there. So you can use some of these tools to be able to do some pretty impressive things. Ask the last thing I'll say on the last, and you don't have to go back, but ask follow-up questions. And people forget about that when you put your prompt together. If you think that you maybe haven't included something that would be important, ask Copilot to give you follow-up questions, and it will follow up with, here's some information that if you don't want me to make things up, you're going to have to give me a couple of things. Okay, so prompting. I'm going to give you kind of a Mad Libs version of a prompt, and here's what we're going to do. We're going to count down our top 8 that we think would be helpful to you as a nonprofit leader. And in each one of these, I've tried to model this kind of prompting, because a good prompt is going to have a role. You're going to ask Copilot to assume a specific role for the output that you want, specific instructions about what you want it to do, add any context that you want it to think about first, and additional information or details. If I'm working on, we'll see a grant example where we've had to add some additional details. If there's a tone or a style that you're going after, and then specifically, what do you want to see as your output? This is a lot to be able to put in. As you can see, it's not a Google search. But you'll see as we go through our top 8, I've tried to reflect all 6 of those in the prompts. So here's how we're going to do the examples. We're going to start with our first one. Our first one is about engagement. And what you'll see here is that the engagement prompt, we've given you a very general, when you get the slide deck after today, my thought was that you can actually snag this. And where I've got brackets, you can swap out some of the details of the prompt that that you can personalize or customize for your specific application. In this case, we're asking Copilot to help us build a social media content calendar for about a week of events. And you can swap out details, but you want to give it a little bit more instruction in acting like an experienced social media influencer. That's our context. We're going to, write a certain number of social media posts. You could go for 7, you could go for 30, you could go for 50, aiming to specifically, what do you want to get it done? And then you'll see me move into an output. I want a table. I want it to have a specific post for Facebook and then a matching one for LinkedIn or a matching one for Instagram. And I want it all in a big table so that I have it all planned out about what I'm going to do for my social media for the next month. So when we click to the next slide, you're going to see me use this in real time for an example. And I've given you specific examples for NCW Tech Alliance and the Apple STEM Network, which we work in, just because I don't want it to hallucinate. I want it to show you what's actually possible with your nonprofit in real time using these specific prompts. So all of the examples that you're going to see today are either NCW Tech Alliance or the Apple STEM Network. But we'll go ahead and watch the first video.
Copilot, please act like an experienced social media influencer. Write 7 engaging social media posts to promote our annual giving campaign, aiming to boost membership and donations to NCW Tech Alliance. NCW Tech Alliance is a regional nonprofit in North Central Washington State. Our mission is to connect people and technology. We aim to inspire, engage, and connect our region to support STEM education, technology adoption, and entrepreneurship programs. We believe that everyone should have access to the technology tools, connectivity, and devices that they need to fully engage in society. Each post should be warm, engaging, informative, fun, and urgent. The output of this prompt should be a table that contains the topic in the first column and a specific version of each post for Instagram and LinkedIn in the second and third columns. Add a column to each row that suggests an image, photo, or video that complements the post. Let's see how it goes. Let's see how she did. You can see in this first row that there's an introduction to the campaign. There's a separate post for Instagram and for LinkedIn. You could add other social media platforms here, and then a suggested image or photo for all days of a full week of social media content.
That's the whole video. So what you see there is just the time that I spent in putting together the first bit of the prompt is actually saved. And now I've got something that's ready to grab and go and be able to share with the team. You would want to review that and make sure that there are specific phrases or that the content there is aligned with your brand and your mission, but that will give you everything that you need to build out an entire week or an entire month or an entire campaign for your social media with just a matter of seconds. The second example that we want to show you is some strategic planning. And here we're going to take Copilot, and with this prompt, you can actually use it in a variety of different ways for event planning, for activities, for building research or a strategy for how you're going to tackle a new initiative. In this case, I'm using an example where I've asked with this prompt, act like an experienced event planner working on behalf of my organization and give me a step-by-step plan, including specific details that would help me to meet the objectives of my program for my target audience, including ideas for specific activities or themes. You can have it output a table with steps and milestones. In this case, I've asked it add a column to the end that will allow me to assign each task. So what I want back out is a project plan for a specific thing. So you'll see me with this example plan some activities for an upcoming Apple STEM network activity.
Dear Copilot, please act like an experienced event planner working on behalf of the Apple STEM network. Please research the Apple STEM network first, then create a step-by-step plan for organizing a successful computer science education week event for youth ages 6 to 14 and their families. The event should be based in North Central Washington. It should be a 1 to 2 hour evening or weekend event. The event should help children connect STEM education skills to future careers and local career professionals. Include ideas for engaging activities, themes, and interactive elements. Output the plan in a table with steps, milestones, and an estimated time for each task. Add a column to the end that will allow me to assign each task. Let's see how it did. So here you have a step-by-step event plan, and as I asked, you have the assignee column that's blank that we can populate, but it's going to take you through and say, first you need to define the objectives and assemble your planning team, secure your venue, and then start planning. And all of the steps, including marketing and promotion with an estimated timeline beside it, including your post event and gathering feedback here with some detailed instructions. It's also going to suggest some engaging activities, themes, and interactive elements as I suggested. So in this one prompt,
Dear
you have
Copilot,
a scaffolding
please
to
act
be
like an
able to do your
experienced
event planner working on.
Okay, you can go ahead and advance. The sixth, we're on our way down, 876. 6 is to be able to use AI tools. And so we've given you a prompt for communications. As the CEO of NCW Tech Alliance, I'm getting ready to do some of our year-end communications out to our membership. I'm sure many of you do an annual reflection. And so any kind of a communication that you need to pull together, newsletters, press releases, you can pull together a specific communication about the year end or the impact. So in this prompt, we're acting like an executive director for a nonprofit. And then I'm going to give a lot more detail, add the context for the nonprofit, the mission, vision, values, objectives, any of that information that you can summarize quickly to be able to put in. And we're going to draft a thank you email to a donor who has donated to the nonprofit this year, and encourage them to stay involved by providing a next step. So here I've used a prompt. Dear Copilot, can you please act like an executive director for NCW Tech Alliance? NCW Tech Alliance aims to bring people and technology resources together to support entrepreneurs, STEM education, and technology adoption in North Central Washington. Our vision is to create a thriving community where technology and innovation drive economic growth and enhance the quality of life for people in the communities we serve. Please draft a heartfelt thank you email for a donor who contributed $2,000 to support our digital literacy program. Emphasize the impact of their support for digital inclusion for adults in our region with limited technology skills who receive training and devices to help them expand opportunities for work, education, and life. Encourage them to stay involved by attending an upcoming event and subscribing to our newsletter and social media. The output of this prompt shows up as an email that is more or less ready to copy over and make very minor revisions to the content so that you sound like your authentic self. So you can see it expresses gratitude for the donation, talks specifically about how the contribution will go directly to adults in North Central Washington. It makes the comment about empowering individuals and really helps them to understand that ripple effect of that donation, and invites them to be involved in other initiatives and come to events and subscribe to the newsletter. So as you can see, this is well composed and articulate and ready to copy over into an email, and with a few minor revisions would be ready to send to that donor. So it's nice here as you can personalize those communications with just a matter of, swapping out a few details about that donor specifically. But you have a tool that can create the language that's on brand and aligned with what your mission, vision, values are for the nonprofit, and really help connect with your donors in a way that they understand and recognize that mission. I'm going to move on to another topic here. Again, we're rapid fire as we're counting them down. And if you aren't already using an AI tool for grant writing, I really want to encourage you to play in this space. Grant writing is always something that has to happen, in addition to everything else that you've got going on day to day. And so in this case, we're going to ask our Copilot to act like a professional grant writer and write a narrative requesting a specific amount of funding. You will again input in the organizational details, mission, vision, objectives, experience, all in your prompt. I've asked it in this case to reference current research and trends and indicate a specific expertise in this area. So it will pull forward where your nonprofit is actually considered an expert, and reference specific demographic data that contextualizes that ask and the need for this project in your specific community. Now, you would want to be even more specific if you're writing to a specific foundation or a specific funder. They will have language in their request for proposals that you'll want to reflect right back in your prompt. So if you hear in their webinar, or you're scanning their website and there are specific key phrases for that grant, you want to embed those right here at the very, very beginning in your prompt that says, this grant is for X. I really want that. In this case, I'm using a hypothetical, and so you'll see a little looser language, but I want to point that out for you. If you're going to use it for grant writing, use their language in your prompt. But let's go ahead and take a look at the video.
So here I have a prompt that says, act like a professional grant writer and draft a 250-word narrative for a grant proposal for the Youth Access Foundation, requesting $5,000 to support the Apple STEM Network Career Connected Learning Initiative. Now, I've got a box here where I'm going to paste in the organizational details, mission, vision, objectives, and experience. And I won't read that to you for this purpose of this video, but I've asked it to use current research and trends to indicate experience in this area and reference local demographic data to highlight the need for this project and the anticipated impact on rural youth in North Central Washington. So in another page, I've actually been working on a brief description of the Apple STEM Network organization detail, mission, vision, and objectives. I'm just going to paste that in now. And you can see these prompts can get pretty lengthy with that information, but I've just copy pasted it in there. And for this, I'm actually going to click for it to spend a few extra minutes thinking about the prompt, to have it think a little bit deeper. So it's going to take just a minute for the response to populate. It can take up to 30 seconds. And in prior videos, you've seen it's almost instantaneous in its output, but here it's going to do a little bit of research and a little bit of deeper thinking. And we've got a response. So the grant proposal narrative goes through and shows a $5,000 request, and it gives some background on the Apple STEM network. It also highlights some of the current trends from the U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics in the job projections for STEM, and gives some explanation on the target impact. So we're working with underserved rural schools to empower educators, and there's an opportunity here to be able to use this as the initial foundation for building that narrative. I really like the way that it's included the 70% youth attainment of post-secondary credentials, which is a goal for the Apple STEM network, and that it's naming specifically our Career Connected Learning initiative and how that's aiming to really equip youth with skills and knowledge about the rapidly evolving workforce. So this would be a great foundational piece for that 250-word narrative, which is also pretty difficult. You can continue to paste in this same thread if you had additional questions. If the next grant question asks you to develop out your objectives or develop out, a specific timeline, you can continue in this same thread by typing in that specific prompt. So here I've added, thank you, Copilot. Can you please compose a title and a brief description of the project described above for which you're seeking funding? What are the specific objectives and expected outcomes of this project? And who is the target population and the geographic area that the project will serve? Which are the next questions in the grant proposal. And you'll see that I've got a possible title, a brief description, and the specific objectives instantaneously pulled, the expected outcomes, the target population, and the geographic area. So this gives you something to be able to work with. And one last piece, you can actually include aspects like a projected budget. So here I've got on that same thread, thank you, Copilot. The next section asks about budget for this proposal. Can you provide a detailed budget breakdown for the $5,000 project? And here you have a draft budget that might help you think about things that you need. If you've got a draft budget, you can also include some of the details and have that conversation with Copilot about what you might be missing or what you might like to include. But they've included outreach and awareness and hands-on learning experiences, education and training support, and it is a guess, but it will total $5,000. You can ask Copilot to reformulate this list into a table and reformat it, but you've got a pretty good foundational structure to be able to copy and carry over into the grant portal.
Okay, So that's the end of the grant writing video. And what I want you to know is that we could have spent the entire half an hour and probably even a full day workshop on how to leverage AI tools for grant writing specifically. And it's something that if that's a topic that you'd like us to return to, please let us know and we can revisit that specifically and kind of do a hands-on type of activity with that. I'm going to move on for the sake of time and introduce number 4 and number 3 are going to kind of go together in the same video. Number 4 is if you're not already using AI tools for program evaluation, I really want to encourage you to do that. There are a lot of different ways that you can do this. In the example that I'm going to give you here, I am using Copilot to act as an executive director and analyze some of the major program milestones that we've accomplished in 2024 against what we hoped to accomplish. And it's going to put an output together as a annual letter for donors to tell them about the progress that we're making towards a specific program. You could also use this for your grant reports or to do measurement and evaluation for communication with all kinds of stakeholders. We'll go ahead and take a look at the video and you'll have an idea kind of what we're talking about. Oh, wait. I apologize. We have number 3 first. Number 3, we combined because it makes a lot of sense to give context to this, but you have a tool with incredible power for accessibility. You can, in this case, act like a professional interpreter. And so you can put out communications and reports in multiple languages in just a matter of moments. I really want to encourage you to think about the level of technicality. If your nonprofit is really specific and you have to have a certain level of technical expertise, you can actually generate that report, but then have it phrase it for a 5th grade reading level or an 8th grade reading level or for a second language learner to be able to reduce some of the complexity of that language. So the tool that you have with your AI LLM is multi-useful in building accessibility into the communications that you have out. So you'll see both of these highlighted in the next video.
Now, our prompt is, Dear Copilot, please act as an executive director for NCW Tech Alliance. Summarize the key accomplishments of our organization from 2024, focusing on our digital inclusion programs. We've trained almost 200 digital navigators to support the community, sent almost 300 devices back into the community as part of the Computers for Community program, had 220 graduates for our digital literacy cohort program. In addition, we saw over 50 digital inclusion commitments come in the month of September to celebrate Digital Equity Month, and shared over $100,000 in microgrants with other nonprofits across the region. We helped expand the quality of access for free Wi-Fi at Big Bend Community College and Wenatchee Valley College and the George Public Library. Please reference the alignment of these impacts in our mission, vision, and values. Please use a tone that's inspiring, celebratory, and informative. And please highlight the impact of these efforts on the communities in North Central Washington. Add details from local news and media to show the regional impact of these efforts. The output of this prompt should be an annual update letter for our donors. What you'll see is Copilot came back with a letter. Dear valued donors, as we reflect on the remarkable year of 2024, I'm thrilled to share incredible strides that we've made at NCW Tech Alliance. And it goes on to summarize those key accomplishments with citations that lead to local media, organized as key accomplishments in Digital Navigator, Computers for Communities, so it's called out by headings. It goes on to highlight the impact in community and again, tying into local media like North 40 Productions, and gives us an opportunity to look forward into next year. And this is ready to go out to your donors. Now, what I'm going to do with this prompt is actually further it because we serve a region that is multilingual, and I'd like to also be able to publish this letter in Spanish. So to show you the accessibility and how easy this is, I'm going to add an additional prompt that I've already written up that says, Dear Copilot, now please act as a professional interpreter from Mexico. Translate the prior letter into Spanish to ensure it's accessible to our community. Maintain the structure and format of the input text. Please remove any reference that isn't also available in Spanish. Maintain the same warm, professional, and encouraging tone. And what I get back almost immediately is the Spanish version of the letter to be able to send out. You can see the same organization, the impact on community, and the invitation for the future. Now, as always, you want to have somebody review this to make sure that the tone and the examples carry over without creating additional complexity, but you've got something to work with that is immediately accessible and ready for you to be able to use going forward.
Hopefully by now you're starting to see the utility of these tools. I've got 2 more to show you, and we're going to move forward for the sake of time. This one might be my favorite. We put it at number 2, but anybody who knows me knows well that I love data. And the AI tools that we're using give you the power to do some pretty neat things with your data organization. So what I want to show you is an example of using what you might not consider as robust data, like what could this tell me about my organization? And we'll use a couple of prompts to get AI to fill in some additional details and then take it back to some actually meaningful analysis in just a matter of minutes. So in this case, we're going to ask Copilot to act as a data analyst who specializes in nonprofit impact and to analyze data from a specific program and provide a detailed report that includes findings and trends, recommendations for improvements. The report should have a professional and informative tone. I want to share it with a specific audience. In this case, I've asked it for the ability to share it with our board of directors so that they can evaluate our performance based on a specific set of data. And I'm using 2 different things in this tool. First, I'm using the Copilot Pro, which I have in Excel, to be able to augment my data set. So I'll let you know here that if you have the Copilot Pro subscription, it's built into the ribbon of your Excel. And so you'll see that in the video. But once you have your data in Excel, I go back to the free version of Copilot and you'll see that you may not have to do that. So you may be able to just do all of this in the Copilot, but I thought it might be a great example to show you where that Copilot Pro can build off of, and you've got agents inside the program and agents inside the web browser that are both able to assist you. So let's take a look. Okay, so here you're looking at a data set and we see some registration information from a recent training that we held. And I'm interested in knowing, I've asked participants as part of their registration for a couple pieces of information. One in particular is the zip code or postal code of where they're going to be or where they are, and this is a webinar. And so what I'm going to do here is just show you how in very natural language, I can actually open Copilot from the ribbon here in Excel, and I can type in just a very natural language question. Copilot, can you add the corresponding city for the zip code that's listed in the data set? Now, I don't necessarily have a formula for this. There are formulas for this, but Copilot is actually going to notice that I've got zip codes in column C, and it will pull up the corresponding formula. So you can see it's generating a formula here, and it's going to tell me that the city that corresponds with that zip code. And if I'd like to go ahead and insert the column, I just add it this way. Done. So now I can see how many people came from each community or each city. I could further go in and add the corresponding county for each city listed. And this is important when you're doing work, and I can grab very minimal information at registration from the folks attending the virtual event or the webinar, and then come back in and do an analysis to be able to identify whether or not we're reaching communities across our service area in our region. So here I'm going to use the prompt, act like a data analyst who specializes in nonprofit impact evaluation, analyze the data from our digital navigator training to measure its impact on access to digital navigation across North Central Washington, provide a detailed report that includes key findings, trends, and recommendations for improvement.
The report should have a professional and informative tone to be shared with the board of directors. Use the following data to run the analysis. Now, I'm going to just copy paste the data set that we were just looking at into this chat window and go ahead and click run. And here's our report. So what comes back is a report that indicates that the data is an analysis of a digital navigator training. The data includes age, gender, city, and county of the participants. It gives me a breakdown of the age distribution and the gender distribution and the geographic distribution, showing me percentage of participation and then who else was there, the cities that were represented, and I had a few outliers that joined us from pretty far out for this training, and so it's noting that. We've got some trends and then some recommendations. And what I love here and what I want to point out is some of the recommendations are so specific, like developing specific strategies to engage senior citizens, because we had several that indicated that they were 65 plus in these digital navigator trainings. So you can see that this is a pretty comprehensive analysis from a very simple event that we captured registration data from a webinar, and it's able to give us feedback on how we're doing with this webinar towards our mission.
So I could spend, again, an entire workshop there. And if this is the kind of thing that you want to hear more about, please let us know, because I would love nothing more than to put together an entire workshop about using AI tools for data analysis. But we're on to number one. And number one is actually maybe the most flexible and useful. You've got in your pocket or on your desktop or in your laptop a problem-solving consultant for your nonprofit. So you can actually use it to ask natural language questions about all kinds of things, whether it's staffing or meeting planning or volunteer retention, or I'm trying to develop a budget, I want to grow into service of a new area. You have all kinds of utility, and you can ask it to act like a nonprofit consultant for our organization. Give it some details about your mission, vision, and other things, and have it suggest some practical solutions for improving a specific challenge, that you're trying to accomplish. I'm going to use it for, in this example, building out a strategy for increasing donor giving during Give Month, which some of you may be thinking about right now. But the utility of this problem-solving component is bottomless. You will get really great quality consulting back. If there's a specific person that you subscribe or follow, I'm a big Brene Brown fan. I'm a big Laura Lipton fan. There's some folks that I really love what they have to say. You can ask for specific advice from them as well. If their bodies of work have been published, you can ask for, what would be some strategies that these folks might suggest for me with my nonprofit. So really want to encourage you to play with this one. The example I'm going to give you is not going to do it justice, but we'll go ahead and take a look.
So our prompt this time is act like a nonprofit consultant for NCW Tech Alliance. Suggest 3 practical solutions for improving donor engagement over the holidays. How can the organization best capture the annual giving season this year? Tailor the suggestions to a small nonprofit organization with limited resources. Almost immediately, we've got some really great strategies here, some personalized communications, some virtual events and campaigns, one suggesting connecting it to Giving Tuesday or a social media campaign or a virtual fundraising event, partnerships and collaboration, and other tips and to help improve the work that we're doing this season.
Okay, so go ahead and we're gonna wrap up with a hard stop here in about a minute. But what I want to show you to sum here is that we've just highlighted 8 AI things that you can do today to support your nonprofit. Really focus in on that skill of prompt engineering, and remember to include additional details. Here we've covered problem solving, data organization, accessibility, program evaluation, grant writing, communication, strategic planning and engagement inside a 30-minute webinar. And I have one last bonus tip, and we'll wrap it up for today. Ask Copilot to help you. Never forget that you can ask for follow-up questions. Include that at the end of your prompt, and Copilot will come back and ask you additional questions to help you get the output that you really want. The other thing is you can use these agents to build your prompt for you. So help me build a prompt to use with you, and you'll ask me follow-up questions until we get to that prompt, and then I have that prompt. Save that prompt, because then you can, just with minor revisions, ask it to come back and update the specific programs or update the specific things, documents that you're working on. So the utility there is endless, and those prompts are the material that's going to be able to get you the most productivity out of these AI tools. With that, I'm going to give you the link to this presentation if you'd like to go back and go a little bit slower through any of these, and an invitation to follow up with NCW Tech Alliance if any of these are something that you'd like to explore deeper. We've got our contact information here on the slide, and I think everybody's going to be getting a copy of all of this afterwards as well. And I know we're right up at that time, so if those of you who have to head back to work, hopefully this is valuable to you. I'll stick around if there's a question or two, if that's okay.
Thank you so much, Sue. That was such an incredible presentation. It just makes me so excited, all of the tools that we have available to us. We have a couple of questions in the Q&A. I know we are very short on time, but perhaps if there's a couple in there that you feel comfortable answering now.
Well, I do see a question from Marlene about, do all the different tools have the option of think deeper? And they do. I think some of them, see what you get back. You can also have it regenerate and then click the think deeper. You kind of have to play with it a little bit, but it takes it a bit of time to comb through, and it's going to make a quick pass at what you're after. And for the grant writing, when I've asked it to think deeper, it pulls in additional research and maybe some additional pieces from that framework. So I do encourage you to play with that feature, especially if you don't get back quite what you were hoping for. And then I see Jerry had a question about his prompt, but it looks like he had to hop off. And so he expressed some sentiments of gratitude for all their resources. Hopefully you found something that you're going to be able to use going forward. Jennifer says, does AI offer a way to find the best app or software based on an organizational need, for example? So you're talking about a research need, and what I would tell you is yes, it gives you some really great examples of tools or analysis. Think deeper. It's not a Google search, so you can ask it specifically for comparison, have it put together a list of recommended tools, but compare the cost annually, the licensing, ask it for some specific parameters that you want it to compare, and have it output for you in a table that you can present to your board of directors for their consideration. Think bigger. You don't have to go for just a query type of search and click on all those links and try to find all that information. It will go directly for what you're looking for. So allow it to do that work for you. And then Kat says, for the free version of ChatGPT, is there a workaround that we don't get current data, or do we just copy paste current info? And I think what I'm going to make an inference about what you're asking. The training data that ChatGPT used for the 3.5 ended in 2019. So anything that was current trends and news isn't necessarily going to show up in the ChatGPT. You can still use it, and the LLM does lightning fast processing if you're adding a lot more information. And what's nice with ChatGPT is even with the free version, you can upload a document or a file. So you can put together a document that summarizes news articles and clips of this last year that you've collated, and then load it up into ChatGPT and ask it to do the same sort of report generation, referencing just what you uploaded, and get a lot of mileage out of that. I tend to go into Copilot and the Edge browser because it integrates through Bing, the search engine. and it pulls all of that current research in right away. And so when you're choosing which tool to use for which purpose, you might have to play with a couple of them. I imagine, again, this is like the bag phone version of AI. So ChatGPT is expanding their partnerships to be able to give more current training data to their LLM. And so I think this is a temporary issue where it doesn't have as current of information. And this will be kind of one to watch. They'll come out with new versions, and those new versions will have new information and access. So I hope that's an answer to your question. I think that's all the questions that came in just while we were chatting. So if there's others, I'm happy to stick around.
Thank you so much, Sue. Thank you for putting this incredible presentation together for us.
Thanks so much for giving us the opportunity to share with you. We look forward to doing this more next year in the future. Reach out to us and let us know what would be helpful.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. This is such a great tool for nonprofit folks. I'm excited to see where we go next. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Claire. Thank you, Sue. Thanks, everyone.